Hi, today we're going to talk about hen coops, hen hutches and hen sheds and which one is likely to be best for you and your hens. And today I'm going to be assisted by one of our hybrid light Sussex hens, so hopefully she'll behave herself. I've been asked whether these hens I use are our pet ones and specially trained or anything. They're not. I just go in the shed and pick one out. They're all very calm. I think it must be to do with the way we rear them here. We're always very gentle with them. So I'll put her there and she can keep an eye on me. So the first question people ask is how big a hen house they need. And there's only really one guide, and that's a farming guideline. And it says for 1,000 birds, you need a 1,000 square foot shed. And that is tight, mind. But bear in mind, some will be on a perch, some will be laying eggs, some will be pottering around, some will be eating. So it kind of works. But it doesn't scale down. It doesn't mean to say that something's 2 foot by 2 foot, 4 square foot is big enough for 4 hens. You need a bit more space than that. But the trouble is, that's the guideline that everybody uses when they're selling hen houses. So if you look online, say, and it says suitable for 4 hens, it's going to be 2 foot by 2 foot. If it says suitable for 6, it's going to be 2 foot by 3 foot, 6 square foot. And ideally, you want a bit more space than that, I would suggest. I would say getting near a double that sort of size would be much better. Something else to bear in mind as well is if the hen house is twice as big as it needs to be, then you're cleaning out half as often, so you've saved yourself a load of work, because it doesn't take twice as long to clean out a shed twice as big, because all the time is finding your wheelbarrow and finding the shavings in the bed and your shovel and things like that. And the hens have got twice as much space, so they're happy as well. The other thing to bear in mind is if you've got space in the hen shed to put your drink and feed, then that's a little bit better as well. Because if it's outside in the run, wild animals are far more likely to going to be tempted to come and eat from the drink and food. So that's hen shed size. Run size, you want to be looking at something round about a square metre a hen. So something that's 3 metres by 2 metres, that would be 6 square metres, 6 hens. And again, ideally, the more the better. The more space they have, the happier they are, and the longer the ground lasts as well. A lot of people think they'll get one of these coops in a run and they'll move it round the lawn, and that way they keep the grass nice and fresh. It's a good idea, but the reality is when the novelty's starting to wear off a bit, you won't be moving it round that often. And if you moved it round every 2 weeks, you'd end up with a lawn that looked a bit like the Lord's cricket pitch, where you can see all the old wickets down the pitch. So it'd be marked. What often people tend to do is put your hen house and coop in one corner of the garden, under a tree that gets shade, or it's very dry or north facing, so you can't get anything to grow, and the hens find that sort of sheltered environment really nice. So that tends to work quite well. So you have your hen coop and your hen run. Now some of the hen runs, you see these big walk-in runs, they look a bit like a polytunnel, which is a tubular metal frame. And then instead of the clear plastic over the top, they have mesh over the top. And they're very good. I like those a lot. The only fiddly thing is when you come to build them, the tubular bit flies up. You do that really quickly and think, I'm nearly there. And then you realise the mesh, you have to cut it into strips and then sew it together with some wire. And that's really fiddly. But once you've done it, pull it over the top, it works really well. Another thing people often don't consider with that sort of setup, they automatically think to put the hen house in the run. Sometimes it's better having the hen house outside the run, butted up against the run. And that way, the access for your hen house is much easier. You don't have to go into the run to check on food and water, or collect your eggs, or clean the hen house out. And also it means there's more space, because it's not taking space up in the run. Also with runs, it's a very good idea to have at least part of it covered, whether it's a hard covering or a tarpaulin over the top. It keeps that area drier so the hens aren't stuck in the shed. If it's a really hot sunny day, they've got shade. If it's raining, they've got somewhere to go that's not in the shed, a bit more space, but it's under cover so they're not getting wet. Another thing is ventilation is very important in hen houses. You don't want them, particularly in the winter, sitting in cold, damp air. So if it's got one of these ventilation things on it, leave it open. You want plenty of fresh air. If you've ever driven round farmers' sheds where they keep the cows in the winter time, there's a strip of wood, a gap, a strip of wood, a gap. There's almost as much space as there is wood. So it's all about keeping fresh air. You don't want them sitting in warm, muggy air. Not very good for them at all. Bedding, you can use wood shavings, straw, hay, chopped hemp, whatever you like. We prefer the shavings. We find in our bigger sheds it's just much easier to shovel out and much better that way. Okay, then there's various different types and materials that your hen shed can be made of. Stone or brick, so if you've got an old outhouse you can use that. They're really good. Also, they don't tend to drop as cold as quickly in the winter or get too hot in the summer. There's quite a lot of thermal mass, there's a lot of mass to it, so it takes a while to heat up or cool down. You might need to convert it and put a bit of wood at the bottom of the door, what they call a threshold across the door, so that the thresh or the straw or the bedding can't fall out. And the same at the little pop hole as well, just a little threshold there so the bedding doesn't continuously fall out of the shed. Doesn't take a lot of doing. Maybe a perch there for them to sleep on. Some hens sleep on a perch, some hens don't. I've never worked out. The same breed will do one thing and the other. Wherever they're happy, that's fine by me. So don't overly panic if they're not sleeping on a perch. Then you're going to want somewhere for them to lay their eggs. Now, a lot of hen coops will say suitable for 6 hens and it'll have 6 nest boxes. Up to 8 hens will just share one nest box. They've got an instinct to lay one big pile of eggs. So you'll probably find if you've got 4 nest boxes and 4 hens, they're all going to just use one. So bear that in mind. Up to 8 hens will share a nest box. So if you've got 12 hens, you probably want 2 or 3 nest boxes, something like that. And again, keep the bedding in them nice and dry and clean, and that way your eggs are going to be nice and dry and clean. Stone and brick sheds. Then there are wooden sheds. There's 2 types of wooden sheds really. The cheaper wooden sheds, and they're very good. They come in from China, flat pack. Again, the only thing I would say when you're looking at hen sheds is you look at the picture and the hen sheds will look a lot bigger than they actually are. Always get a tape measure out and measure the size of the hen shed, how and whether you're happy or not, because they make them look much bigger than they are. They even put paint shop pictures of hens onto their publicity material on a different scale. When you go away after this and look at hen sheds, you'll say, I see that is paint shop done. They shrunk to make the hen house look bigger. They will last you about 2 or 3 years if you look after them, because the wood isn't particularly good quality. But it gets you into the swing and you know you like keeping hens, and then you can invest in something maybe a bit better. The next step up is really good quality wooden ones, which are getting on to about £500, and they will last a lot longer. They will last kind of 10 years, something like that. Just much better quality wooden treatment. Then there's my favourite, to be honest, which is plastic sheds. They might not look quite as cute and cosy and rustic as a wooden shed, but they're much easier to keep clean because you can jet wash them good and proper, soak them in strong chemicals and they'll clean. And they last forever. They last and they last and they last. There's 2 types really. One made with something called high density polyethylene, HDPE. That's the black flexible plastic. Hen coops like Solway Recycling and Nestera use that. And that's very good stuff. And then there's the harder plastics, like the products that places like Omlet use for their coops. All work really well and no real problems. The only other thing to think about when you're choosing a coop is the access for cleaning out, because often some of these nice cute looking coops have a little door on the back, and then it doesn't take you long to realise that the method of cleaning out is going to be on your hands and knees with a dustpan and brush, and that's not the easiest. If you can get easy access to shovel with a proper standard size shovel, it makes it an awful lot easier to look after the coop. If you do like the Omlet products, on our website there is a link to the Omlet products, and I get a bit of kickback from that. It doesn't make it any more expensive or any cheaper, but I appreciate it if you do that. You might think as well these plastic ones, they're really expensive. They're about the price of the really good quality wooden ones, or if not a little bit dearer. But if you look at second-hand ones, you'll find they hold the value really well. And if you bear in mind the ones people are selling second-hand, they probably bought 10 years ago, they'll be selling them for virtually what they paid for them, if not a little bit more. So if you think about it from that point of view, it doesn't cost you anywhere near as much to get a good quality plastic coop as it does a cheap wooden one that is only going to last you a couple of years. So I hope that's given you a bit of insight into the different hen coops that you can get and what's likely to be best for your setup. If you like what you listen to, don't forget to click like. Thank you very much.